Cosmetology school versus traditional college or four-year university institutions. Which one is the best for you? We're gonna dive all into all of the nitty-gritty details right now. My name is Mandara Kisa, and I help brand new hairstylists bridge the gap between getting licensed to creating the hairstylist life that they enjoy. I hope that you have enjoyed my previous videos in regards to cosmetology school, salon life, things like that. I've been having a lot of fun creating these videos for you as a new hairstylist. It really makes me happy to be able to share my real-time experiences in the salon, my Cosmo School experiences, and things of that sort. So I wanted to give you a little bit of a backstory, pretty much talking about how I transitioned, or really what was my reasoning behind leaving a four-year institution, a four-year university, and pretty much just like dropping out cold turkey, and then in the same exact semester enrolling into a cosmetology program. So prior to joining a cosmetology program, I was a classical music major. I studied voice, I was a vocal major, and I also play piano as well. And I was looking into becoming a classical piano double major on top of a classical music voice major. Music is my whole entire life. I love music. It will always be my first love. So yeah, the decision for me to drop out of school was not an easy one. I always wanted to be a classical music instructor. That was like what I wanted to do. I wanted to be either like a choir director or work like on set, like in New York somewhere on like a music show, like work on set in a music show or something like that, like, or a vocal coach, anything of that sort. I just wanted my whole life to surround music because I just love it so much. So at one point, I think it was 2018, I believe, this is when I was still studying. Before I went to my four-year university, I was studying at a community college. So I got a bunch of like my music theory credits and stuff like that in my community college. My mind went blank for a second. In the community college that I was at, I got a bunch of credits. I got like probably over 60 to like 75 credits that I got at the community college. Anyway, so I studied a bunch of music classes. That was good. Everything was going good. The problem started in my private music classes. So there was a teacher there that, God bless her, I'm so grateful for her. She started to notice that as I was learning my Italian music, like classical music repertoire, it was really, really difficult for me to like sing in my upper range. So she noticed like a hoarseness in my voice anytime I tried to slide up into my upper range. And if you know anything about music, musicians are singers, vocalists specifically, classical vocalists, are usually categorized into like, you're either like a soprano, mezzo soprano, alto 1, alto 2, whatever, if you're a female. And I was kind of in like the soprano alto-ish range, like upper alto, lower soprano range. So anyway, long story short, she noticed that I had like this sort of hoarseness. And so she suggested that I go see a doctor, like an ear, nose, and throat doctor. So I went, and then they found that I had vocal nodes. Those of you that don't know, vocal nodules are basically like these little polyps that grow on your vocal cords over time with misuse of your voice. So singers get this, actors get this, people on Broadway that are constantly using their voice to project their voice into the microphone over a stadium, over like an auditorium. This is very, very common amongst singers and actors. I was devastated, okay, because as I mentioned before, music was my whole entire life, and it still is. So basically, upon learning that, I was like, okay, I need speech therapy. So when I went to my next school, I want to say this was a couple semesters shy of me graduating. This is probably like 1 semester or 2 semesters prior to me graduating. So anyway, I graduated thank God. Sung the national anthem on graduation. That was exciting and also an honor. So I graduated, and then I went to my next school, and at my next school, it was a four-year university, and oh my gosh, that school's classical music program, it was so rigorous. Like, their program was no joke. It wasn't one of those schools where like you could like skip a couple classes here and there and you'll be okay. And that wasn't the kind of student I was anyway. But oh my gosh, my voice couldn't keep up. As I mentioned before, I had the vocal nodules that I was struggling with. My assignment started slipping. And then COVID happened. Okay, so when COVID happened, I really got discouraged because COVID was like, it was really difficult to like be a voice major or try to like have tests and exams where basically as a vocal major you are singing in your exams. Like they will give you a piece of sheet music and you're basically sight reading this sheet music and you're singing it in like a pitch string. So like that was hard. It's really, really hard doing that on video. For some reason in my brain, it just doesn't compute. Like anything with like music or sound just doesn't compute in my head when it comes to video. So that was really, really challenging. So I started seeing a speech therapist, which was awesome because she helped me navigate like my exams and stuff like that. So anyway, so basically like the gist of the story is like, I started everything with like the lockdown. At that time I was living by myself, so it was like super isolating, and a bunch of us got laid off. Basically my entire job got laid off being a server. Like, you're not really essential being a server, especially in the industry I work in. Yeah, so I think all of those things combined, and also on top of that being single at the time, so all of those things combined, I think really pushed me to my decision of like leaving. And honestly, I was a lot happier when I left because I felt a lot of pressure. Like, think about it. If you're struggling with like producing sound in your everyday speech, which since then I've gotten speech therapy and everything like that. I did that for a couple semesters. I think it was 2 semesters that I did the therapy. So since then, it's gotten so much better, which I'm super grateful that that school on campus, they had amazing therapists that helped me and they were super patient. But yeah, thinking back, I think that all of that combined kind of like made me want to drop out. I was done. I was over it. I was like, you know what? Like, this is hard. Like and the material wasn't that hard. It was just the fact that like you had to produce a certain pitch. Like, you had to sing in a certain register that was super, super uncomfortable. And for me, some days I would wake up and that register wouldn't be there. And mind you, I forgot a little context. I was working, this is before the shutdown, I was working 5 days a week or 4 days a week at a place where I'm projecting my voice, I'm yelling all night, and the school that I was attending was an hour drive away. And for the first semester that I went there, I had class 5 days a week. So it just kind of was like a recipe for disaster, to be very frank. So anyway, went through that. And then finally, after 2021 happened, or after 2020 happened, after COVID happened, the 2021 spring semester was happening and it was all online. I think I made it to about April. So it was just the end of my semester until I finally said, no, I'm done. I finally said I'm done. And I spoke to my advisors and I said, you know what? Like, I enjoyed my time here, but like, I'm done. And it did feel like a weight of relief. It felt like a sigh of relief. It felt like I didn't have to strain my voice anymore in this major that was super, super rough and rigorous. It felt like in a way, I did kind of feel like I was giving up on music, but I knew in my heart that like I will never give up on music. So even upon dropping out, like I was still like writing music. I started live streaming. I started really connecting with musicians online, which was such a blessing during the shutdown. I dropped out, that was 2021. And then in the same year, I want to say in the same month that I dropped out, I started looking up like cosmetology schools and beauty schools and stuff like that. So I started binge watching because my brain was in the mindset of like, okay, I'm not just going to drop out of college and do nothing. Like I need to drop out and have some kind of a backup plan. And I knew that I already had like, not an undergrad degree, but an associate's degree in music. So I always knew that like, if worse comes to worse, I can always go to beauty school and then go back to school for something else if I decide that's not really what I want to do. So I started brainstorming. I'm like, okay, what can I do that I can graduate in a short amount of time, get a job, start making money? Because as I stated before, I was living alone at that time. So I knew that like I wanted to do something that wouldn't cost me like 4 years of time in order to start working. Beauty school. Started looking up beauty schools and stuff, and I will give you a couple pros of beauty school, and I will also give you a couple cons of beauty school. So wait, before I do that, I didn't give you pros and cons of university. So some pros of going to a big university, which I went to a state school. So it was huge. The campus was beautiful. So a couple of pros with going to school on campus is that you have access to so many facilities. Like there was a huge library, there was cafes, there was like obviously dorms on campus. I was a student that was commuting, so I didn't take advantage of the dorms on campus, but you do have the option to live on campus, so it's a little bit easier for you to like, I'm getting tongue tied. So it's a little easier for you to go to class on campus. There's sports teams, there's all types of Greek life, there's sororities, whatever, there's entertainment, there's homecoming. If you're into that, there's a huge gym. High school, again, it was a state school, so like it was really like you felt the energy on campus, like you felt like proud to be a part of that school. And I really did. I remember my first semester, I want to say it was like my first week on campus, I went right to like the student like shop or whatever. For some reason the words are escaping me. You know what I'm trying to say. Like the student campus store that has like the school spirit like mugs and like all of that. I went and got like shirts, hoodies, because I was like really proud that I got into the program. So yeah, so those are some pros. You can take advantage of like all of the facilities that are on campus and like the dorms and stuff like that. And it just feels really good to be a part of like a community. I'm a very big people person. So for me, going to class in person was like it was a huge deal for me. Like I loved connecting with like my classmates, even though I was like 10 years older than them. I didn't really care. Like for me, a person is a person. So that was really big for me. And also being able to like talk to my professors on campus. They were there if I needed any help with like music theory related work, which music theory is a lot, okay? So definitely for those tougher majors, if you're considering going to a 4-year college, definitely consider going in person if you can. Or if you're online, definitely get a rapport with your professors to have that good communication with them, because that will make a difference in your scores. At least for me it did. Again, like I mentioned, I'm a people person, so for me, like if I have like a good communication with someone or a good communication with like a group of people, it really helps out. It makes a huge difference. Those were some of the pros of going to a on-campus university. Some of the cons: being as though it was a state school, it was always crowded. Okay, so it was crowded. It did give me a bit of anxiety. It's kind of like walking from class to class. It felt like, so if you've ever been to like New York or San Francisco, it was that type of vibe. Like, it was very like busy. Like, everybody had 10 minutes to get from class A to class B. And then when you got to class A or class B, it was like you were one of 50, or some of my classes was like you were one of 100 or one of 300. So that was kind of challenging to navigate the crowd of people. If you're the type of person that doesn't really get bothered by a big crowd, you'll have absolutely no issue with that. For me, it was more so the anxiety of like worrying that I'm not gonna make it to class B from class A on time. That was my number one concern. I didn't want to be late. Some of my professors were super, super strict, especially for those core classes. Like, you know, those classes like random science classes or random like speech or history or writing classes that you just needed the credit to get to. Those were the classes I was really worried about. I did not want to get locked out for being late. So I guess that would be one con, was like overcrowded areas and overcrowded like libraries, overcrowded student general areas. I'm trying to think of another con. There really wasn't that many cons, I don't think. It was actually a super positive experience. It really was just my vocal nodes that made me drop out. I was like, this is a lot for me, and I really can't do this drive. I can't do the online thing. Like, it just really was that. But it was a great school. I would say if you're considering going to a four-year university, definitely do your research on whatever department that you're interested in. If you are interested in music like me, I would say definitely scope out the specific type of material that you will be studying. Find out, is it a jazz program? Is it a modern music program? Is it classical based? I went into it knowing that it was classical, but I didn't think my nodes would be an issue. But I stood corrected, but that's okay. Got help for it, and who knows, maybe in the future I'll go back to it. Sky's the limit. So I did have another con. So the other con that I have for college/university was all of the universities that I was interested in were far away. Definitely, if you're interested in going to a four-year college, four-year university, like, make sure you look and see like, how far is this college from my house? Because if you're a student commuter like I was, because I was already living in my own apartment, so I didn't want to like leave my apartment, which I was super comfortable with. It was near my job, so I didn't want to like give all that up to live on campus. Plus, being as though that I was an older student, I didn't want to like really have to deal with that. So definitely check to see like how close your school is to you. That really makes a difference in your school selection. Okay, so those were a couple pros and cons of like college, university. Some pros and cons about cosmetology school. We'll start with the pros. So I would say the one biggest pro for me was the time. I knew that cosmetology school was 9 months, and basically 9 months versus 4 years. I picked the 9-month option because obviously it's faster, and I knew that, again, upon graduation, I would get a degree. So, or get licensed, technically, diploma, whatever the verbiage is. I knew I would get the piece of paper in 9 months. So definitely consider that also if you are considering going to a four-year institution versus going to a 9-month program, where vocational type of school where you get licensed and then you can start working. So it really all depends. I feel like a lot of my thought process all boils down to money. Depends, like if you're 18 years old and you just graduated high school, maybe money isn't really that big of a factor for you. Maybe you have more time. Maybe if you don't have children like me, maybe going to a four-year school is the better option. Or maybe if you have a bunch of bills and you need to, money is a concern, maybe you want to go to a vocational school because you know that once you graduate, you will always have a job. There's always going to be a salon that you can work in. You really just have to weigh like what is more important to you. So I would say the biggest pro of Cosmo School is that you're in and out in 9 months. It's super fast. I would say another really big pro is that it's fun, it's hands-on, it's definitely not boring. I would say when you're in the classroom for the first like 4 to 5 months, time does drag a bit because you're in the classroom. So it feels like you're in a university kind of. But I would say once you get out of the classroom and you're on the floor, you get to the fun stuff. You get to do the highlights and the colors and the haircuts and hairstyles, and you get to do braids. You get to do just really everything. And when you don't have a client, you're on your mannequin. Don't be one of those students that don't do nothing, because guess what? Your time is your money, okay? I equate everything to money. So like, you're paying for the program, so you want to make sure you get the most out of it. So I would say those were, what was that? 2 pros? 3 pros? That might have been 2 pros. So another pro of cosmetology school is that the community. So I met a couple of really, really cool people in cosmetology school that I'm still friends with today. And it's just such a blessing. Like, you never know who you're going to meet. You never know who you can network with and things like that. Some cons of cosmetology school. Let's see. So I started cosmetology school when I was 30 years old, or 31, one of those. So for me, the biggest con was the culture shock of being older. So, and what I mean by that is that because I was in my 30s, and I want to say 98% of the student body was between 18 to 20 years old, our mindsets were different. The conversations were different. I felt that I couldn't really connect on a deeper, like, friendship level with the younger girls. So for me, that was like the biggest con. So that was kind of the gist with that whole situation. But I would say that was probably the biggest con for me, was the age difference and not really being able to connect. Another con of cosmetology school is kind of being around certain like people that don't really take it seriously, that are kind of like drama or just negative energy. But I don't find that specific to cosmetology school. Like, you can work in a job with people that have negative energy, or you can go to a university that, you know, some of the students have negative energy. So I don't think that that was really specific to a cosmetology school, but in my personal experience, I did experience a couple of the students, a couple of my classmates having sort of off days, if you will. That's how we'll call it, off days. But for me, that was really the only cons, was like kind of dealing with people's negativity and not really being able to connect with some of my classmates. So, but other than that, everything was good. There was a whole bunch of cons. There was a whole bunch of pros to beauty school, especially pro number 1 for me would be probably, or I would say the biggest pro was the fact that it was hands-on. I love being hands-on. I'm someone that gets very bored easily. And the fact that it was hands-on and you could do different styles with different hair textures, and there was just so much to do. There was projects, there was shows, there was fashion shows. Like, it was a really, really good time. So I hope you have found this video super helpful, super educational. I hope that by you listening to my story of how I was in college and then I left college, dropped out of college, went to cosmetology school, to now working in a salon where I'm very, very happy. I get to do all different types of styles, mostly haircuts, washes, blow dries, colors, things like that. You're considering whether you should go to a 4-year traditional college or cosmetology school, definitely refer back to this video. If you know of anyone else that is kind of on the fence of beauty school or college, definitely refer them out to this video. You can always reach out to me on my Instagram. My hair Instagram is @MandaraKisa Hair. I will leave the link directly below. And with that, I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Definitely hit that like button and also subscribe to my channel because I upload weekly videos every Monday at 9 a.m. sharp over here. So definitely stay tuned to tons of new beauty content I have coming your way in 2024. Thank you so much for watching my video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.